All right, so what's going on, guys? Welcome to episode 3 of the LeafyTV podcast. Very excited for this one. Again, as always, joined by my good friend Kenu from NHLGamer.com. If you want to give yourself a quick intro, who you are, what you do here.
Hello, I'm Ken from NHLGamer.com. Huge NHL video game fan, hockey fan. Been doing stuff with the EA NHL game since I was like 12 years old. Used to build mods for the PC version between 2000 and 2009, and I've been playing competitively since probably 2001. And yeah, then I got into tournament organizing and league organizing and broadcast producing and stuff like that. And this is the road we're on, and here we are.
Yeah, so naturally we'll be asking him a bunch of questions about the leagues he runs, the esports stuff, and broadcasting too, because I know you do some casting for your leagues as well. Um, but we could just start off with some easy, general gameplay thoughts. So you're big into the game. It's not just, the behind the scenes esports things like that. You obviously play the game a lot too. So what are your general thoughts on the gameplay? How do you feel when you fire up the game?
I gotta say, I mostly moved over to 6v6 quite recently. I still play my friends in versus, and let's see, maybe I'll still try and cause some upsets in the GWC qualifiers and stuff like that. But but mostly the game mode I enjoy the most is 6v6. And that's where I got the most hours this year. Usually I play a lot of Hut, um, and that would keep going. But at some point I kind of just had to take a break, and I felt like I fell out. I didn't have the best team, and back in the day I used to be able to kind of, what do you call it, close the gap with skills
Mm-hmm.
versus cards. But yeah, I just don't. I think the hot gameplay is so much more. Skate fast, skate hard, get a shot off, and then go for defense and repeat. Whereas I feel like 6v6 has a little bit more strategy, and versus also is a slower game pace that is better for me. But
Mm-hmm.
I know it's a lot of people like it, and I'm not gonna knock on anybody liking it. I probably just don't have the skill anymore. So I'm trash talking.
No, I mean, I think that, there's two things with HUD. It's not only that people prefer the gameplay, I think there's a lot of stuff involved with, just people love building their teams and using the players that they get. So, um, you know, I, I actually probably kind of agree that I like the gameplay of the other modes, but I prefer the, you know, acquiring things and building up a team part of HUD. That's the fun of it for me. So then, you kind of just deal with the gameplay that you don't like, I guess. But like,
Yeah, no,
what do you
I completely
actually
agree.
think of it? Like, do you like this year's gameplay compared to last year? What do you like about it? What do you dislike about it?
uh, well, we all know it's not perfect, but I
Mm,
gotta say, I really like it. I really like it. There were things that I was more worried about earlier in the game, but at least playing EASHL with the not so great player builds, I'm quite enjoying the gameplay. It's there will be the odd bounce, but hey, that's hockey. So um, generally speaking, I'm pretty happy about it. I know there can still be a lot of changes to it, to maybe to the precision of how you play defense and stuff like that. And there's a lot of discussion about incidental contact and
mm-hmm.
how that should work. So there's definitely things where it can be better, but overall, I'm quite enjoying it compared to last year and the years before.
Sounds good. So with you put a lot of time into World of Chel with your gameplay, then, um, what what do you think of those builds that you were just talking about? Would you like, a lot of people want custom ones, a lot of people want either custom ones or just have them be better. What is your take?
Yeah, I'll be the first to admit I don't have time to fiddle around with the builds as much as
Yeah.
I used to. I mean, that's all we used to do back in the day, and I will say that I support the idea of having your custom builds, because it just theoretically speaking, it gives you so much more freedom, or that's just a fact, but it gives you more options of what to do. I know that EA, what their aim is with restricting this freedom is of course that I'm sure a lot of people just bumped up the speed to as far as it goes, and
Yeah.
maybe the shots, and then you get a bit of a one-sided gameplay out of that. So I I do see the problem there. Um, I do I do appreciate, while it was cool to be one of the, I think it was called, uh, what was it called when you maxed out your attributes back in the day,
Um.
when you played like
Oh, you mean like
I don't know
your
how many games.
your Legend 3 card? Like, is that what you're talking about?
Legend 3 card. There you
Yeah.
go. Yeah, 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 yeah. So it used to be cool, of course, when you had your Legend 3 card and then you met some new teams at Christmas and you just totally skated over them and demolished them. But
Yeah.
but that's not a good experience for new players, and in I love my high competitive play and NHL Esports, but it's also good, for new teams and new players to have a way in and not, look bad just because they started later. Skill is one thing, but getting that extra boost, it's a tricky question, because
Yeah.
at the same time, one of the things I love about Hut, while I said I don't play it as much, is what you mentioned, is the whole collecting and feeling like you're upgrading and unlocking stuff. And for me, the hockey bags sadly don't quite do that. Um, but that's just me.
Yeah, I know recently we talked a little bit about the hockey bags, and I mean, I said before it's a big complaint that I hear that I wouldn't expect to hear so much, but people hate those things. I don't know. There's so much negative energy towards those hockey bags. I guess, you know, they take a while to open.
I
They don't. The contents are underwhelming. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I probably have a good 50 of those regular bags unopened simply because they don't. I don't know. I got my gloves, I got my stick, I got my skates, I got my helmet. I got what I need. So for me, that's fine. But of course, if you're the kind of player who plays drop in, or one of those modes where you can use all the swag that you unlock,
Hmm.
it's obviously cool. I'm a bit of a purist, maybe from the what I expect from the game mode, and I like to think of realism and stuff like that. And then there's people who enjoy the Superman intros and that kind of stuff. So
Right.
it's it's a tough job for the developers, I'm sure, to make those decisions. But we live in a Fortnite, etc. world, so I'm not going to be the one to say what's the absolute right thing. But I hope they can at least provide us with the option of the experience of an authentic hockey game.
Yeah, no, I think it's nice to have something for everyone. I don't think you're ever gonna get rid of the making sure you can get your Bauer gloves or whatever you like to wear, but maybe there's some more fun things for people that are not of that purist mindset so much. So beyond just World of Chao gameplay, I talked to Nuge a couple weeks ago, and we talked through the World of Chao modes and what could make the whole experience better. One of his major complaints in general is the menus. He loves to just rant about the menus constantly, which I definitely do agree with. Um, I mean, you're welcome to talk on that. Like, what else about World of Chao would you love to see? I know you're gonna say spectator mode, so we can talk about that in a minute when we get into the
Wait,
esports
wait, wait,
talk.
wait.
But just things
What is
that
this? What is this spectator you're talking about? Never heard of it.
just
Yeah.
anything that you would love to see added.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, the menus is a great place to start, because that's what takes you places. What
Hmm.
what makes you, especially as a new player, makes you find your way into the game mode. And I gotta say, even as a as a veteran in the game and the game mode, I'm sometimes having having some trouble, either trouble finding something, or it just takes a very, very long getting places.
Absolutely.
Like getting into the dressing room is something I believe should be somehow you could put a shortcut to your main menu and then you could jump in whenever. Um, of course, I try to think of the other side of the coin as well. Like maybe the developers don't want us rushing into that mode because they want you to see all the things on the way. They want you to see the added content and all kinds of stuff on the way. So I understand the advertising perspective on the way there, but getting to the dressing room quicker, and I just think overall the menus need a big overhaul, and they've been kind of the same for years, and I'm happy to say that they work a little snappier with the new consoles. I don't know if you have that experience yet,
Yeah, I do.
um,
They're a little
but
quicker, but
still,
the function, like the
yeah.
way that they are structured, is the problem. It's not like totally just the speed. Obviously, they are slow, but it's the fact that you load into things every single time you press a button, rather than just making your selections first and then loading into that last screen. Because even if that last loading screen is a bit long, it feels like a faster experience and much more streamlined.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't know the tech about behind the menus, but overall, I think we can agree that just other games do a much better job of providing that content, and I think there's some bits and pieces that actually look good in the menus. I don't play a lot of franchise mode, but I've seen a lot of franchise mode screens that actually I think look great, and we've seen a lot of fan made. Um, Drafts or
Hmm.
mock-ups on Twitter and stuff like that. And I think there's a lot of great ideas floating around there. And overall, getting first of all your team stats and your personal stats and some sort of goals on screen, so you could feel some sort of progression, because you during the so-called regular season in the game, I feel like there's not really that much excitement. Either you're staying in Division 1 or you're getting dropped to Division 2 and then you repeat that cycle. I gotta say though, I was one of the people who would criticize the playoff mode in the game, but we had a bit of a playoff bug in our on our team where we got a little bit excited for this season that just ended. We found ourselves in the top 50 or so, and we climbed our way to number 5, and we were getting excited. Obviously, it's in no way perfect right now, but we did find some of that old excitement that we used to have back in the day, climbing the leaderboards. Now, obviously, I represent NHL Gamer, the website, and we run our own tournaments, and that's usually where our excitement is. But I'm happy to say that we were able to have a good. I don't know how long the playoffs are, 2 weeks
2 weeks,
or
I
so,
think. Yeah.
and a lot of laughs, but also some bitter tears at the end where we lost to a good team who hadn't played that much, and we lost like 600 points, and we
Oh
went
boy.
from 5th to 17th or something. And yeah, I think we landed on 11th, but I hope somebody gets banned above us so we can make it into the top 10. Not sure if I answered your question at all. I don't remember the question anymore, but yeah, but in general, just having this sort of progression and something that you're playing for is basically what I'm saying. And I think it's a good first step with the playoffs. I know a lot of people hate the outdoor rink.
Yeah.
Uh, Maybe check your screen settings or something. I'm sure there. I think they already made it a little bit better. Personally, I play on a TV, 55 inch.
Yeah.
I know a lot of gamers play on
On a
monitors, and,
monitor.
and
Yeah.
I'm sure settings make them different. And I don't think the outdoor rink is perfect by any means. You get tired of it, and it's a little bit blue maybe, and there's a weird bug where the puck gets stuck around the corner of the rink now and then. And there's a lot of negatives to it, but overall, I do think there's a little bit too much focus on the criticism towards that one rink. But maybe the pace of the playoffs should be little bit faster. I know their goal is to make it enjoyable, even if you don't play it that often, but maybe just a tiny bit shorter, and then figure out some way to make the regular season more exciting. Um, those are my thoughts around World of Chel. And
Yeah, so I
it
was.
kind of
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
it ties in with the no it just ties in with the menus. Oh, my camera turned off. My bad.
Yeah, your camera lost it,
Let's
but
see.
that's
Now
alright.
it's gonna probably turn.
No
It's
worries.
got a 30-minute timer on it. Let
Oh,
me see.
you're back. There you go.
Sometimes it
Anyways,
comes back with weird colors. Yeah,
yeah,
sorry. I'll just finish the thought, which was that's kind of like beyond menus, but at the same time, like the menus and the presentation of information of what you're actually playing for and how are you doing on your team, and maybe picking up some tidbits of, hey, you're the best shorthanded scorer on your team, or you got the most penalties on your team, and picking up stuff like that.
yeah. I think that's actually a really good idea. I think that would be like there. It would provide maybe a little bit of between like teammates, like a little bit of banter. Like if you talked about, you had your shorthanded goals leaderboard, or you can make fun of the guys who have all the penalty minutes or whatever, and it was presented like right in front of you there. I think that would be pretty funny. Um, No, I was actually going to ask about the playoffs. So I'm glad to get your thoughts on that because I was gonna say like what were you thinking about the current support, not necessarily from EA for esports, but just competitive play in general. So it's interesting to hear that perspective. I do agree that playoffs maybe are a little bit long. Same with the regular season. Really, I kind of feel like there should be maybe a little bit quicker turnover for those. Is there anything that you feel would make that regular season better? You kind of said make it more exciting, but do you have any ideas for that?
That's a great question. I wish I prepared for this in any way.
But I like to
Um,
ask kind of without preparation because I feel like you get
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
most candid answers this way when it's just whatever people think right in that moment. But
No, for sure, for sure. I mean, again, personally, we run our tournaments and leagues and stuff like that, so we keep it exciting for our users and for
mhm.
ourselves by playing in these leagues. And and one of the things is, of course, playing teams of a similar level and that sort of stuff. So I think it's a very good question. I will bring up one thing that is slightly off topic, but it is an important topic that I get a lot of feedback from Germany and France and our friends that are playing on the Frankfurt server, which is in
Mhm.
Germany. Um, is that some time ago? I think it's been about 2 years when they added that server, which is a great idea because people in Germany deserve to have a great connection as well. But what happened is it kind of split up Europe into two segments, and the Germans and French teams generally and Czech teams, etc., don't generally play our teams in the Nordics, for example. So that is something that has, especially for those nationalities, lessened their fun in the EASHL whatsoever. So they get their games with us in private games and custom tournaments. But what happens in EASHL is they only play like the same 10 or 15 teams, and if your teams are very different levels, then it can be a pretty terrible experience if you keep beating the same teams 10-0 every night.
No, that's
So
very true. Not
just
not
a
not something that I would have considered. Are there big communities for those kind of countries? Because I feel like when we talk about EU, pretty much anybody ever thinks about the Finnish players and Swedish players.
yeah. Yeah. So we, for example, run our own German league, the GCL, or German speaking league, I should say, which is in 3 divisions and
Hmm.
consists of, let's see here, 14 plus 24 plus 11 teams. So that's very hard math,
Wow.
but I'm going to go ahead and say 60-ish German speaking teams, and we have probably 30 Russian speaking teams, and There's a growing amount of French teams as well. We have some um, organizations that have joined from France and even Spain. So it's cool to see, and uh, I'm kind of jumping from one thing to another, but we
No,
started
all
this
years.
Western European league as well for our teams, kind of because there's not enough teams in just France alone or Spain alone, but we put like Spain and Britain and France and Latvia together, and they can play together also, and kind of hopefully raise the level of competitive play in all of these countries as well. And that's pretty much what my goal is with this is for people to have fun together first and foremost, and then to compete together and to raise the level of play, or at least put the people together that like to play at a higher level, and that way get some more competition. And that is, I guess, the tangent to what I think that is uh, the challenge of ESHL, and finding the appropriate games. And for example, for us, when my team, we're a Division 1 team,
Mm,
sometimes drop into Division 2. We usually don't play that many teams that are better than us, and this is not trash talking, but this is just because the teams that are in our leagues considered like top tier elite teams, they sadly usually back out when they meet us, because they want to play somebody who is at that very, very top level, and that gets kind of repetitive for me. So and this is not I'm not trash talking these teams, because I understand it as well.
no, yeah,
if if you play opponents, like, I personally think we can beat them
right.
sometimes, but it gets much easier if they're not inspired to play us, and they're like, oh, whatever, let's play this game, and
Yeah,
it doesn't bring them the joy that they should be getting from playing that game either. So I understand them backing out. But that's kind of, I don't have the direct solution. I mean, my solution is NHL Gamer and these games that are played with teams that are very, very close in competitive level, and bringing these experiences to people. So that's my solution. But the
right.
solution for EA is to promote NHL Gamer.
No, so I was gonna ask like a little bit about that. Like, what is there anything that EA can do that you feel would support or better support either their own esports or your leagues in general? Like, I know there have been ideas tossed around in the past about like scouting tools or ways to look deeper into players, game history and things like that, so that if you want to meet people like through drop-ins or whatever, so that you can find new players and stuff. Like, how do you think the game can help NHL esports grow, but also your leagues as well, like not just official esports, let's say.
Yeah. I mean, I do want to say thank you to the devs. I mean, I don't remember if we mentioned it, but I'm also a game changer like yourself, so we
Hmm.
have a good relationship with the developers, and we get to talk about stuff, and we do get some data out of the EA API for our website, and we're very happy for that, and hopefully in the future we're going to get even more stats, and hopefully live stats, and those are some examples of how, like, simple stuff, how we can add a layer of excitement and coaching and strategy through um, data. Um, as for the games, I think one of the cool thing on NHL Gamer and similar websites is that you can track your history year to year. You can follow your you know how many points did I have 5 seasons ago, and how many points do I have today, and stuff like that. And when you look at the video game, you lose your progress every year. So some way of tracking yourself throughout years, and is it important? Not really, but is it exciting and interesting to see how your points stack up to how you were playing or how many games you were even playing like 4 years ago. I have no idea. I don't know if I want to know, but it'd be great to have the access to that information so that you can, you feel like you put something into the game and it doesn't get reset every year. And this may be because I'm 35 and I soon don't have any stats left to give, but I want to have that legacy somewhere, and
Right.
that's one of the reasons why I created NHL Gamer.
I mean, even I think it would be valuable to even have those kinds of stats for within a year, like seeing your progress from, maybe the first season to one like a few months from that and being able to compare that kind of stuff. Just to see how maybe you improved at the game or maybe you switch teams and seeing how that changed your stats or whatever. I think, you know, I mean, I guess like ultimately it really all kind of comes back to the menus and presenting people information on the menus. I think all of that is just different ways that people can kind of get talking about their game and also like you've been saying, kind of get excitement about it.
Exactly, and I just got hey everybody in chat. Crease Police says games and hours played, an exciting and sad stat at the same time. Exactly.
For sure, for sure.
What do you mean you didn't have time to take out the trash? I just pulled your stats. Where was I? No, I was gonna say like the game itself, it does have a pretty good layer of stats already. It's just a little bit buried in the menus and
Mm-hmm.
and finding new ways and cool ways to quickly look at those stats and compare players would be interesting. At the same time, I think you have to go when you do that, and if you put weight on these stats, like if you look at my stats and you say, "Oh my goodness, you have a lot of giveaways, and you have so few takeaways, and your passing percentages is not it's the worst on the team. I'm gonna fire you for the team." Uh, at that point, you got to know, what does this actually mean? Is if I clear the puck using the saucer pass on a penalty kill, is that a failed pass? If I dump the puck in the corner and the opponent touches it for half a second and then we get the puck, did I just give away the puck?
Mm-hmm.
How is it tracked? So I think stats can be dangerous if you give them to people and you don't explain what they mean. So I absolutely don't think this is the reason they haven't done it, but I'm just going down the wormhole here. So I think I would hope EA would also, similarly to the attributes, I would hope they would also give us some more information about how the stats work and what counts as an interception and what counts as a giveaway and a takeaway and stuff like that.
No,
What
it's
counts as
definitely
an offside?
something.
Is it
Yeah, it's definitely something I've heard. Sorry to interrupt, but it's definitely something I've heard from people in the past because a lot of people think like, oh well, we always have so many more giveaways and takeaways, but why isn't there a 1-to-1 ratio? And EA said, well, we have. Not every giveaway has a takeaway. It's not exactly the same thing because sometimes you just give the puck away and they don't do anything to actually take it, so it's not a takeaway. And yeah, there's definitely a lot.
exactly.
There's been a lot of dialogue around that kind
Those
of
are
stuff.
my
So
takeaways, by the way. They're just not tracked.
So I think that there should be a little bit more communication on that as well. Among other things, I think they could definitely do with communication, but that's another topic. Anyways,
Yeah, but I've always said that you can make the game feel so fresh with just even smaller changes as long as you do them in the right place. I've said this for years, but change the referee's face, change the damn cameraman's face in the audience, and you got a fresh game. You don't even okay, you may have to switch the logo, but even that people will be like, "Oh man, this feels fresh." Same thing with camera angles and same camera patterns and stuff like that. That really, I think, makes you feel like you're playing the same thing, even if they do actually make some great upgrades.
No, I do agree with that 100%. So so let's talk a little bit more now about your site and your esports and stuff. Obviously, we've seen this sort of industry grow a lot over the last few years, not just NHL, but just esports in general. But I'm sure you've seen a lot of growth as well within your own site, and your player
For
base and
sure.
everything. You know, what kind of what has brought people there? What do you feel like you have succeeded at? What are your future goals for NHL Gamer, and how do you think that not that the game can make? I mean, I'm not necessarily just talking about the game, but how do you think that we can continue to make that grow and garner more interest, not only in your site but just esports in general? If there's anything that the game can do to support that, etc.
That's a big question.
Yeah, it's a big
Where do
question.
I
I mean,
start?
just talk about whatever you want, really.
Yeah, I mean, I know Justin's in the chat, so he's staring at me. He just sent me a message that I need to brag. Uh, yeah, I mean, first of all, we've seen a lot of growth. Obviously, we've been at it for 6 years now, and every year we've been growing more and more. Our we run the biggest esports league in the world with ECL, which is the European Championship League.
Yep.
Um, we had 262 teams last season, split into 4 divisions, and we just launched the signups last night. Last time I checked, we had 60 teams signed up, and we're hoping to. Well, I don't want to jinx it, but we're hoping to beat the numbers that we had last season,
Right.
and because that was about 2,500 players and about 50 organizations that are involved. So I'm a terrible bragger, but I'll try. So we've had for about 2.5 years, maybe we've had organizations starting to get more and more involved in our tournaments, and in today we have about 55 organizations, I would say. So that means esports organizations, hockey teams from different countries, like we mentioned France before, and Germany. We have a bunch of sorry, my Twitch just went completely crazy over here. We have different companies from different organizations that are around the world that are. Something totally weird is happening with my Twitch. So I believe the last thing that we were talking about just before there were some technical issues was the organizations that are involved in Europe, which has been very, very good for our community and our ecosystem. So currently we have 8 different leagues in our ecosystem. I mean, we run events for others, companies and other teams as well, but our own ecosystem consists of 6 different kind of regional leagues in Europe. Then we have the European Championship League, ECL, which consists then of all of these teams, and then we have the NACL, which is the North American Championship League, which is something that we're really looking forward to growing and showing off in the future. My stream is buffering. Is everybody else okay?
I'm so
Okay.
sorry for this, but anyways, you were saying.
Clearly, somebody's trying to stop me from telling my
Yeah, it must be one of those
promoting
rival
my platform.
websites.
Okay. How do I recap this before somebody DDoSes you again? But to tie it all together, what I'm saying is something that has significantly helped us and making NHL Gamer and our leagues into something more than just playing for fun, which is also super cool. And we, we started from the grassroots, and we will always respect the grassroots, and we want to what's the word? Give people a way to enter into competitive and league play kind of stuff. But it's really cool to see that we have about 55 organizations now involved all around Europe and in several countries and in different there's a lot of hockey teams from elite divisions and lower divisions, and then there's esports organizations that are kind of the top of especially a lot of Finnish top organizations. And just yesterday, I saw there was a, I don't know if it's well, so it was yesterday. There was a German organization that has like hundreds of thousands of followers that also joined. I'm not that knowledgeable about their organization, but it's super cool to see that teams within NHL have they're exciting enough to nowadays go and talk to these organizations on their own, and they will sign these contracts. Whereas
Right.
in the past, I mean, I'm still helping out teams, but in the past, I was involved in all of those meetings, and now we've come into a situation where teams can represent themselves and be convincing enough, and show the kind of history and the numbers that are needed for organizations to be excited. And that's something that is very beneficial. And I think we're starting to see the same thing in North America now. NHL teams are a little bit harder to get involved, I guess, than some smaller organizations. And there's a lot of legal stuff, I'm sure, that you need to look at, and stuff
Hmm.
like that. But there's organizations that will be getting into it, and that will in turn, everybody working together. That's, at the end of the day, that's what is necessary for this still kind of niche. I mean, hockey is sort of a niche sport, and the video game representation of it is even more so. I do think we're big enough to create really cool stuff, and I think we've already done a lot of that. But to make it even more um, approachable for the bigger audiences and for those who don't play themselves, um, we simply have to work together. All of the websites and hockey teams and the organizations and fans and players and everybody. Um, there's a lot of us against them kind of mentality, but we
Right.
really need to work together to show the best of this world, and that's really how we're gonna succeed. And you asked what EA can do.
Yeah, I
Hopefully,
mean,
EA will,
just, in-game support, or, I mean, people have
yeah.
wanted, EA to run their own sixes tournaments because obviously GWC has only been 1v1. I don't know if you have, like, I assume because you're, a more of a World of Chel person, like, when it comes to the NHL Esports 1v1 compared to 6v6 debate, you're probably on the sixes side of things. But, just,
Officially, I'm not. I as a player, I prefer sixes. As a viewer, I prefer sixes. But I know there's a lot of people who love to play versus and hot, and we also run versus tournaments, and we run the Finnish championships and Swedish championships with big prize pools in versus. So in no way are we discriminating against those game modes, and we're looking forward to creating bigger and better events around that as well. So um, definitely, if you're a player that is excited only about 1v1, we may not have the greatest and best tournaments for you at this very moment, but be sure to sign up and let us know that you're interested in a versus tournament, and we'll be sure to set that up. But as for what EA can do is, you mentioned GWC. Like, officially, that's not run by EA as far as I am
yeah, well,
aware.
EA,
So it's
NHL
mostly
kind
the
of,
NHL. It's
mm,
supported
yeah.
by EA. I'm sure they do some stuff, give them these specific cards to draft, and I'm definitely not saying EA is doing nothing. But I mean, officially, it's not their tournament. So um, I mean, I guess I'm in an interesting position to say, should they run their own stuff, or should they, come to myself and others who do this stuff. That's a decision for EA to do for themselves. But hopefully it can be a kind of a bigger ecosystem where there's room for both EA's official tournaments and then partner tournaments, and hopefully they will be in sometime in the near future ready for official partnerships and working together on creating these great events. Whether it's financial or if it's working together to creating better game modes and better in-game integration.
Hmm.
Like we can do a lot of things today, and the things that we ask from the developers are pretty small, I would say, in the big scheme of things. Spectator mode is one thing that you promised that we would talk about, and here we are.
Yeah, here we are. I was gonna let you go on your rant. Though it was coming in the next like
Yeah,
30 seconds.
I could talk for hours. I don't even know how long this podcast is. I still have a few hours.
No,
No,
I
but
mean, yeah, well, that's obviously, I asked one thing that they can do. Obviously, adding a spectator mode is one thing that you do. You're not only big on running the leagues, but you have big broadcasts and very, it all the
the
production
best.
value
I yeah,
is very
it's the
good.
best.
I've seen.
No, it's the
So
best.
you're welcome to.
I promised Justin that I would brag.
So you're welcome to, talk about the importance of having a spectator mode, why, it's so successful for, games that have it, and what it brings to, your broadcasts and esports in general.
Yeah, I mean, the problem really comes from wanting to get the broadcast feeds from a wide variety of people. Obviously, if you're creating a Sixes League like we are especially successful at, it's if you're doing the top 16 teams in Europe, you're probably going to have some better sources for your broadcast. But the reality is, a lot of these players would still be streaming from their PlayStations,
Mm-hmm.
giving you 720p, and then we have to pick it up from either from Twitch and then get it into our broadcast, or what the Leafs did with the LGL was use what is it called, share play, I
Mm-hmm.
think, on PlayStation, which is great until you run into your 1 hour time limit during the third OT or something, and then you miss the ending. And this is not a stab at them. It's just that when we're doing things online, we don't have direct access to the console. So that's the biggest thing. If everybody had their $3,000 streaming PCs with gigabyte internet, no problem. Would we still love spectator mode? Absolutely. But that's like the very, very grassroots problem is you can go from one game looking crispy, clean, and fantastic, and then you go to the next one, which is 720p and very mushy, and you can, it just doesn't look that great. So that's the first problem is which ways we can get this signal. So what the broadcast mode and what I've asked for, and the community, and the very, very basic thing that we're asking for as for starters is to have one or two. I think my camera turned off again.
It did turn off again, yeah.
One or
It's a
two.
very professional production we have here.
Yeah, well, this is on me. And sometimes it comes back with weird colors. No, I'm good. So I'm just rambling. Okay, focus.
No,
Yeah,
feel
so
free to
getting in
ramble.
the getting in the getting in the signal. Sorry. Having two spots. Currently have 6v6. You go and you pick your teams get picked on each side, and then you go to the game. So basically what we've asked for is to have one or two more slots that you can go into, call it coach slot, call it streamer slot, whatever you want to call it, and let our producer or whoever is streaming, this is obviously, I'm looking at this from our perspective and our professional type broadcast, but this is something that could be cool for pretty much anybody
Right.
to have access to, even on a team level. There's a lot of teams out there out of these 50 plus organizations that I mentioned before that run their own streams, and they run into the same issues. They want to do play-by-play out of these when they're following their own teams, and they have to jump through these same hoops and same technical difficulties as we do. So it's definitely also beneficial for a lot of smaller streamers, not just professional type broadcasts, but being able to jump into the game, um, maybe hide some icons, and you can of course change the camera. I can probably talk an hour about what cool features I would put into spectator mode. But is that realistic to ask for at this stage? Probably not. So what we're asking for is the very, very basic thing. So our producer can sit with one or two consoles and just get the feed to his console, not have to, not have to tell the players to, oh, you have to turn off that audio and you have to put on those icons, and then you can't skip replays, and then you have to show replays, and when the game ends, please don't turn your console off immediately because that would not look great. And these are all problems that I'm sure everybody have had when they produce an NHL broadcast. So getting this extra slot in there doesn't sound as big of a stretch as the super producer mode, where you can turn on and off the clock and you can click the left trigger to flip the camera 360 degrees and have a slow-mo. You can take this very, very far and where your imagination goes. But the thing that we're asking for is very, very simple in nature, and hopefully we'll see that in the near future.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my spectator mode rant.
It was concise. That was good. No, I mean, you hear, of course, it seems very important, and it's not only obviously you guys. I mean, when you think about even GWC, obviously they have their limitations on what they can show on screen as well. Even though they are, if it's local, like obviously it won't be this year, but
Yeah.
even when they have all the consoles in studio, they can still only show what's on the screen, and can't change camera angles, and it's limited. When you compare it to other
This is very
esports,
true.
it's not the same kind of level.
This is this is very true, and I feel like I need to mention that the NHL, when they did GWC last year, they didn't present it live. They recorded it,
Right.
simply because there are so many things that can technically go wrong. And this is not me trash talking them, because it's the NHL. They're supposed to be the biggest and the best, and there's a lot of pressure on them. So them making that decision, it makes sense to me. We obviously like to live on the edge and produce broadcasts with 19 different cameras all around the world, and it usually works really well.
Yeah, I mean, I think ideally it's live. I would imagine that the reason that
Yeah.
they did that was because of the ability to add the production value and, keep things
Absolutely.
safe. But, there's definitely drawbacks to it as well. And I would imagine that the goal would obviously be so that everything is live and they can, do everything they want to do as it's happening. But, it probably has somewhat to do with the limitations on what the game offers for broadcasting purposes. But
Absolutely,
yeah.
and that's why I hope they also share this feedback with EA, because I think I met some of the guys from the NHL the first time in Stockholm 2018, and that was one of the first things I told them.
Mhm.
They were like, "So, you have any feedback? Because we have a little bit more say in this." And and I was like, "Yes, actually, let's talk about spectator mode."
I'm sure like they should be on board with that 100%
Yeah.
because it would benefit, not only you guys of course, but them too. Um I'm kind of like, is there anything else that, as far as your leagues, or anything that you'd like to talk about? Anything that we didn't really touch on that you think was, is an important point that you'd like to discuss as far as NHL goes, or esports, or anything?
Oh, there's so many things, but where do we go from here? I mean, NHL Gamer started in Helsinki, Finland, 2016. No, sorry, 2015 is when we launched, and we do like a lot of our greatest success is in Europe. But I really hope that everybody watching, whether you're from Europe or North America or wherever you are, you feel welcome in our environment, and we really wish you welcome to NHLGamer.com, because we originate from Europe, but we're very much a universal platform, and we hope to see more players from all around. And that's why I wear the shirt, which I can't see in real time right now. But
Right, of course.
EU loves North America, and that's what it's all about, and that's why we want to get rid of this damn pandemic, because another humble brag is that we've done the most sixes live events in the world. We've done, I think, 6 of them, meaning like proper production and prize money and all of that stuff, not just your mall tournament. Not to diss anybody. I mean, I love the mall tournament as much as the next guy, but we have a lot of experience with that, and we want to bring more of that live experience to our fans and to our players, and obviously also to our North American players. So just want to be super clear to everybody watching. We love North American players, and we want to do stuff with you guys as well, and stay tuned for news on that as well.
Yeah, I mean,
This is not an exit, by the way, but
yeah, I mean, I don't want anybody to think like this is like some big advertisement for NHL GameChanger. Obviously, he's gonna promote his own site, but it is a great place for anybody if you want to play. Whether it's 1v1 or 6v6. These organized leagues, especially for competitive guys, are great. I'm sure I'll be talking to another one at some point, and it's not a competitive thing. I played in LG, I played in NACL, so it's not anything as far. I'm pretty sure you and Brody are good friends, and also, but
there's a pretty good picture.
Yeah, there's that good picture with the wrestling looking picture.
Stare down, yeah.
Yeah, the stare down.
Oh, Brody's a great guy.
Yeah, but it's great that we have these third party or whatever you want to call it leagues, because obviously the game itself doesn't have so much support for competitive play within it, and so it really gives those environments, especially for Europe has a lot and has had a lot of really big tournaments and in-person stuff, and I know a lot of the NA guys have been very jealous for sure of some of the opportunities for tournaments that you guys have had over there. And stuff is coming now with the San Jose Sharks tournament and Capitals and stuff with NHL teams coming in, but some of the tournaments that you guys were doing even a couple of years ago where that wasn't really a possibility over on NA, it's been very cool, and so it's definitely a good opportunity for anybody who wants to play competitive or even try to get into that competitive level, for sure.
Yeah. Thank you very much, and that's just for any player who is enjoying these type of tournaments, no matter where they're playing. One of the best things you can do is share that with somebody else, and how much fun you're having, and sharing the streams and watching the streams. At the end of the day, the proof of concept is that these broadcasts get viewers. So be sure to support these streams, whoever is behind them. If you enjoy it, show it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Another thing that Justin mentioned was lag out stuff, being able to control where you can start a game. Definitely a very good point for that, because it's...
Yeah.
I remember playing in these leagues where you have to, somebody has to take a penalty, but you have to wait all that time, and then you have to, combine the stats from the different pictures and screenshots. It's always been quite a headache, so, I'm sure you have even more of a headache on that. Not just from the player side, but from production for sure.
No, for sure. I mean, it's one of those things which I would consider. Again, I'm not a game designer, so I can't say the reality of it, but it sounds like a thing that is still moderately small. It's about setting some attributes or whatever before the game and starting it from there. So hopefully that should be within the reach of something that we'll see within the next couple of years. And there was a question in the chat about NHL 22. What am I looking? I can't actually remember the question.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think it's just, what do you want to see most, or what are you most looking forward to?
What do I want to see?
Or hoping for? I was gonna ask that. Yeah, spectator mode.
But like as a more broad and general view, I mean, obviously, no information is out about the game yet, so who knows. But um, simply, we have the new systems, we have the Series X, we have the PlayStation 5. Historically, usually this is when they make the jump to next gen, and we've seen some big changes. Probably the most dramatical was NHL 07 with skill stick and all of that stuff.
Hmm.
So, it's always exciting to see this change to a new console generation, and how much new stuff you can do with that power. And also, we don't know how much these old systems are going to hold us back, because there have been some promises that games will work on all Xboxes and stuff like that. So
Right.
I don't know how that's going to work, or is it just going to be two versions of the game, or this is purely hypothetical, just so we're clear. But we're definitely in for some very interesting times, because new consoles. I can say turning on the new Xbox was not quite the same experience when you don't have that super new game that only works on that system. So, uh, very excited to see what's going to happen with the NHL series and the new consoles.
No, it's a good it's a good answer to that. I can't help but notice though that you didn't say GM connected.
uh,
I
yeah,
give this to
I mean,
I've said this to everybody so far. This is episode 3 now, and nobody's mentioned
well,
GM
it's
connected. So
well, you see, it's still loading. It's
yeah,
still
it's still
simulating.
loading. Yeah.
No, I would love to see GM connected. Maybe with today's technology and today's loading times and today's community, first and foremost. I think the communities were very different back in the GM connected days. So I really welcome that, and maybe try and figure out what were the things that went wrong besides the loading times. Um, Maybe shorter seasons. I don't even remember what kind of restrictions we had back in the day. I just remember starting them and never finishing them, and there must have been a reason for that. So, um, hopefully they'll bring it back, and hopefully, the community and all of us have been able to give them the appropriate feedback to make that a great mode, because that's something that I miss, like on the versus side of things, is having this experience. Like when you play hut, you have this feeling of progression, but when you play versus, you don't have that.
Hmm.
Um, and figuring that out is I think uh, the biggest obstacle for making it a fun experience. But online season mode sounds like a great idea, generally speaking.
Yeah, I just it's when I ask for feedback every year. Every year, everybody asks for GM Connected. So now that I'm talking to game changers, and it won't only be game changers, but
Don't forget about roster sharing.
yeah, and can't forget about roster sharing either. I hope to eventually have a discussion with Tugi, and I'm sure he'll just talk for the whole hour about that. So, not to worry.
Yeah.
But I think that's all I've got for you today. Thank you so much for doing this. It was great to
Thank you
hear
very
the
much.
perspective of the person that runs a massive league. Um, and a very successful one at that. And it's I'm been very excited to talk to all these different community people, because there's so many different perspectives, even though we're all playing the same game. So yeah, it was great. Oh, I actually, this is actually an important question. Last week I asked, my chat wanted me to ask Thrash what his favorite type of bagel was. And he told me that he had never eaten a bagel before, which was just like a very shocking. I don't know. I was just very taken aback by that. So, do you have a favorite kind of bagel that you can tell me to salvage this podcast?
Um, my answer is everything bagel,
Okay,
because that's the
that's
only one that comes to
perfect.
mind.
That is perfect
It's
because
the only
that's
one
my
that comes
answer
to
too.
mind. I do have to say, bagels are not a huge thing over here in Finland.
Okay.
We do have some bagel places, but I wouldn't be able to tell what those bagels are. But if I'm over there in North America, it would be an everything bagel for
That's a
sure.
perfect answer because that's what everybody wanted to hear in the first place. Thank you for saving the podcast where Thrash almost made it crash and burn last week.
Oh my
No,
goodness. It's
no,
okay. I'm waiting for all of the bagel money now.
no, but
But thank
seriously,
you so
I
much for having me. I
mhm.
appreciate it. This was so much fun. Like genuinely, it's so cool to talk to people who are genuinely as excited about the game as you are yourself, because that's not a given. Not in the open world, and especially not during COVID times.
Yeah,
It's very refreshing to have these discussions. So thank you very much for having me.
of course, it was a pleasure. And, to be honest with you, I think so many people have these, great ideas within the community and a lot of things to say about the game because we all play it so much. And yet, I feel like there really isn't enough conversation about it. I feel like there could be, the whole point of this was to kind of get people's ideas out there and really get people talking more about the things that they have to say but maybe aren't saying out loud. Or maybe they are
Yeah, for
saying it, but
sure.
it's only in our game changer chats or only in their back channels. And really, I mean, why not speak it out to the community as well and get people talking about it. So it's really nice to hear everything. And of course, I gather feedback every year, so this is fun for me. And I've got lists and pages of questions for everybody. So it's a lot. It's good fun. But thank you so much for
Yeah,
being here.
this
uh,
is so much easier also than writing a novel
of
on a
course.
forum about, like, just forcing me to talk about it is so much easier for me than to actually put together a video on this subject, which I think would be very exciting, but probably would take me like a year because I'd be polishing a pixel somewhere in the left corner.
Of course. And honestly, it's better for me too because, I have to, when I do my big writing ones, I sit down and I work on them forever. And then I don't even know how many people read them because, those GWC rules came out yesterday and nobody wanted to read those. So you can see how digestible it is when it comes in a different form that doesn't require people to read. But,
Oh
um,
yeah, boy, that's a heavy read. Yeah, I looked at the broadcast yesterday. I think I have a pretty good grasp of what was going on there, but I can understand a lot of people are very confused right now.
yeah, it's a little bit complicated, but thank you so much for being here. I really really appreciate it. To everybody who's watching it live or on YouTube, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. We'll be back again with another guest who once again I don't know who it is because I haven't asked anyone, but we'll be back again next week with somebody new. So Kenu, thank you so much, and I'll see you
Thank you
guys
so
later.
much for having me.